ashore, and then it will slowly move inland and bring some rip current and rainfall risk to the coast, and the rain will move inland over the Carolinas.
Yeah, we're going to break it all down for you here on Weather Unfiltered. I'm Alex Wilson, former director of the National Hurricane Center. Dr. Knapp, you've been forecasting this through the week, so whether or not we got the tropical depression or tropical storm designation, it was always going to be a tough weekend here along the Carolina coastline.
Yeah, we expected to get a cone today either way, with a potential tropical cyclone or an actual depression, and they had the aircraft. The thunderstorms are just enough organized to go ahead and call it a depression, but none of that changes the hazards that are mostly going to have to do with water.
Yes, whether it's water coming down or a little bit more murky, a little bit more rainy, and not necessarily great in the water as we move through this holiday weekend. We look at what's happening right now in Florida. That's where we start with some of the heavier downpours currently. You can see areas in and around Orlando still getting in on some of the big time showers and thunderstorms. Those rainfall rates have been really heavy, leaving you soaked. So has been a little tough at times at the theme park south of Orlando. Over towards Sebrings, we got showers, thunderstorms, lots of lightning. So even though these might not be severe warned, you're still getting tons of lightning strikes, very heavy rain. So, you know, it's not without any danger, especially if you are at something like a theme park, a water park, the pool, the beach. Lightning, you can't be outside and mess with it. Just too dangerous. On the northeast side or northwest side of Orlando, closer to the Villages, plenty of thunderstorms there as well. We look at the future radar, how things pan out. Closer to the late evening, we see less activity. Is it completely dry? Unfortunately, I don't think so. So it's truly going to be a hit or miss nature by about 9-10 o'clock. Most areas, I think, get the fireworks off okay. Some spots you could be affected with delays, if not cancellations, with some thunderstorms possible. Now, Saturday, we'll do it again. Showers and thunderstorms scattered during the afternoon and evening hours. You can see Central Florida will still be one of the spots to watch for a little bit more activity. Flash flooding a possibility. This is Saturday into Sunday. So starting around 8 a.m. tomorrow through 8 a.m. Sunday, the risk of localized flash flooding. So areas that once again look at heavy downpours out of thunderstorms could again be dealing with, you know, some, I think, minor low-end flash flooding. I don't think we're going to see significant or widespread issues, but you definitely could see some roadways covered. Now, flash flooding Sunday into Monday, our chances start to shift farther to the north with those rain shower chances getting into the Carolinas, especially Midlands down to the low country in South Carolina, and then Outer Banks, Wilmington area, even up towards Fayetteville, the I-95 corridor, we could see some very heavy rain. So keep that in mind for your travels on some of those interstates, 95, 40, I-26. Those could all be troublesome here into the weekend with downpours reducing visibility. Friday evening, where we start, you can see fairly quiet this evening. I think we're not going to have problems with, you know, 4th of July festivities at those beaches, but look at Jordan Beach. By, say, this time tomorrow, you've got showers and thunderstorms becoming more widespread through the second half of the weekend. More waves coming in around the Wilmington area. That's waves of rain, but waves themselves will also be picking up. So expect higher wave heights and, again, the dangerous rip currents. So even though, Dr. Knapp, we are going to see, you know, more quiet time at the beaches, it's not going to be constant rain. You got to really be careful getting in the water. Swim at those guarded beaches.
Yeah, Alex, I get
across parts of the Northeast, so the pools have been much more safe and popular for our 4th of July Friday. Now, Independence Day travel by car. We know most of you are going to be using that vehicle to get to and from all your activities. Now, Saturday, the worst time to travel is going to be between 11 a.m. and 5 p.m. So if you do need to travel tomorrow, early bird gets the worm. It's a saying for a reason, right? And in travel, it's going to be the same way. I know it's tough to get up early, though, when you're like on a long holiday weekend. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm going to get up so early. And then like I roll over and it's 9:15 and I'm like, next weekend I'm going to get up early. Saturday, we've got really nice weather that continues here across sections of the Northeast, the Ohio Valley, even the Midwest. I think like a Detroit, Chicago should be dry now. It's very warm. Chicago highs in the mid-90s. Upper Great Lakes, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Iowa, we watch for showers and thunderstorms. Intermountain West thunderstorms, still dealing with some of those shower and thunderstorm chances across the state of Texas as well. So Minneapolis, Des Moines, highs in the low 80s with the thunderstorms. thunderstorms. Marquette, you could see some later day thunderstorms, but as I mentioned, I think Indianapolis, Detroit, Louisville, St. Louis, you're all dry for the start of the weekend. Air travel issues, they could be a problem in a Minneapolis, in a Des Moines. So with the showers and thunderstorms, we could see at least some, minor to moderate delays. I don't think we're going to see high-end delays at MSP, but we could see some delays. At Target Field in Minneapolis, we've got game time of 1:10. As you make your way to the game, I think that's the best chance of thunderstorms. So if there is lightning, I wouldn't be leaving the car, walking through the parking lot. Temperatures around 80 for your high. At times, some gusty winds and in the water, which is bad news here going into a 4th of July holiday weekend when we know tons of people are at the beach.
Yeah, and here's the thing, this tropical depression right now, it's not producing really bad weather on the coast of the Carolinas, but it's already producing a moderate to high rip current risk, and that risk will go up, as will the rain-induced flood risk. So on a holiday weekend, this could put a lot of people in danger if they're not really careful, Alex.
Yeah. We got to think about, like you said, traveling to and fro. Well, breaking down what we've got now in the tropics, but also knowing that it's the 4th of July, so we're going to start to head towards mid-July, late July, and then our peak season month. So we got to look at what's ahead short term and what's also ahead in the longer range.
Yeah, especially that's a hard question to answer because often there's a relative downturn in the middle of July. So just because we're getting a storm at the beginning of July doesn't mean it's going to stay that way the rest of the month. And then, then there's August. We know how different August can be from July. So this is, again, typical early season stuff that tends to form close to home. And it isn't going to, be an eye-popping satellite image at any point.
Right.
But it's enough to cause the Hurricane Center to call this a depression and enough for them to put up tropical storm watches.
It's like that saying, it's not pretty, but it's something. It's there, right? It's like when you make one of those kind of utilitarian meals where you're like, it's not beautiful, but it's going to feed you. So we met the criteria we needed to.
Yeah, and, when there is a tropical storm watch and then eventually a warning, and when there's a high risk of rip currents and when there's a rain-induced flood risk, these systems that don't immediately get your attention can be sneaky in their dangers, and people can die in water events even when the winds aren't going to be that strong. Now, the center circulation is probably after midnight, but before breakfast on Sunday morning.
All right, and you pointed out the water issues, and I think everybody immediately goes to rainfall. However, rainfall will be an issue, but you also point out too many times we actually lose lives by what's happening in the water because of these systems.
Yeah, but going to and from the beach, you could run into some water-covered roads, and then when you get to the beach, you could be dealing with some very dangerous rip current and surf conditions. Now, Alex, we already have onshore flow into the Carolinas, so there's already a moderate to high rip current risk today. But what we have right now is a relatively broad area of low pressure, but it's got a enough defined center of circulation and enough organization to the convection. I think that qualifies as a depression.
Yeah, again, it's not about how you got there, but you got there. So now we're going to start to see that rainfall also pivot from more of a Florida issue to more of a Carolinas issue.
Yeah, because this system is going to be steered and sheared by this trough that's over to its west, but that trough's going to go farther west. So upper level high pressure is going to try to take shape. So the colors show you the low level spin getting a little more concentrated as it moves slowly to the north over the next 24 hours and then comes inland on Sunday. And then, by the way, it will interact with a front in the northeast and add to the moisture up there, but it won't be a tropical system. So, as you mentioned, water is a big problem. Still in Florida tomorrow, but increasingly in the Carolinas, and the rip current risk in South Carolina goes up tomorrow.
So as we say, really critical. There are going to be breaks in the rain showers. It's not going to be a complete washout of the weekend. If you are going there, make sure you're swimming on those guarded beaches or at those guarded beaches. Listen to the lifeguards.
Absolutely. Now, increasingly, later we get into Saturday, the worse the weather will get, so maybe that'll chase people out of the water, probably for their own good. And then Sunday, now the rainfall and the gusty winds really start to take shape. So rain-induced flooding. Now, Alex, somebody locally could get 4, 5, 6 inches of rain, and North Carolina's rip current risk goes up on Sunday. Water issues are going to be dangerous.
All right, we're of course going to be tracking it for you all weekend here on the Weather Channel.
And the rain-induced flood risk, maybe we don't get as much as they got in Texas, but locally, could you get a half a foot out of this slow-moving system?
So for most, a nuisance storm, and again, very survivable as long as we're making smart decisions
that
this
is
week.
exactly what my mom would say to me right now.
Well, welcome into Weather Unfiltered on this 4th of July. I'm Alex Wilson here with a former director of the National Hurricane Center, our expert, Dr. Rick Knabb. You've been forecasting this through the week, and the designation isn't really changing what we're expecting, but probably will get it a little more attention, which is, I think, good for people who are going to be at those beaches from areas that don't really deal with tropical weather.
Yeah, and of course, nowadays, when it gets designated is not as critical, because I think we were going to get a cone today no matter what to get a tropical storm watch up for the Carolinas.
Yes, and we've got that flooding round of the grill, and then all the fireworks or drone shows, or, you know, maybe just making some s'mores in the backyard. I think a lot of people would be very happy with even just that. The rain showers, thunderstorms continue across parts of Florida, central North Florida especially right now, but we have seen rain down towards South Florida as well. Things are going to begin to shift, so we start to see the more significant rain edge from Florida up to the southeast coastline over the weekend. But today we still have plenty of downpours from areas in the Big Bend over towards the Villages, north and west of Orlando, up towards Leesburg, Sebring area. You've seen some heavy downpours and thunderstorms. South of Orlando, we've got a few thunderstorms that have really strengthened, bringing more lightning with them. So not ideal out there on parts of I-4, on some of the local roadways too. These downpours are really heavy, and they can reduce visibility in a snap. So be careful out there as you make your way maybe to or from, I guess, from your picnic. Maybe you're moving over to somebody else's house to watch the fireworks. Be careful out there on the roads. I think many areas are going to see storms calm down as we get closer to that fireworks time frame, that 9:30, 10 o'clock time frame. However, there will likely still be at least a few hit or miss thunderstorms out there. So I can't guarantee everyone in Florida is dry, but I think many spots will be. Now, tomorrow afternoon, we're going to do it all again. Scattered showers and thunderstorms across the state from central Florida to South Florida. And then we're going to be watching, you know, for a little bit more rain even into Sunday. Now, I think the nature of the showers and thunderstorms both Saturday and Sunday will be more typical for what we see during the month of July, the early part of July, those very common afternoon showers and thunderstorms that develop across Florida. So I don't think this is going to be, you know, unusual weather by any means. We've got the possibility of localized flash flooding Saturday into early Sunday across parts of Florida. Notice now we also bump it up into the Carolinas, and by Sunday and Monday, it really is the Carolinas that we watch for that risk of localized flash flooding. Again, most areas we're probably expecting between 1/2 inch and 2 inches, but there are spots that could see more, so flash flooding would be an issue in those areas. Tonight, Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, Outer Banks all look good, but tomorrow, rain shower chances start to go up, especially during the second half of the day. It'll continue to be soggy on Sunday. Dr. Knabb? We don't drive through flooded roadways. We're really careful at the beach in the water. This is when your lifeguard is going to be your best friend.
Yeah, so this is a situation, like you say, that deaths are completely avoidable.
Yeah.
We just have to not let the fact that it's quote unquote only a depression or only a weak tropical storm lull you into thinking it can't be dangerous.
Right, and this was designated as of the 5 o'clock advisory. You were expecting this, you know, you were expecting a depression, maybe even a storm here, as we expect now into the weekend. So it's the Carolinas where we think things are going to really start to go downhill.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about Florida, and they still have the trough, the former front that's...
And Dr. Knabb, our hurricane expert, former director of the National Hurricane Center, with us again to talk about Tropical Depression 3. Yesterday we were like, could they do PTC? They didn't have to. They found what they needed to see today when they got in there with the hurricane hunters. They were able to designate this a depression.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised that it organized as quickly as it did. I thought it would take maybe another half day or another day, but we knew we would be dealing with a depression or storm coming into the Carolinas, you know, over the weekend, before Sunday is done. This is coming ashore, and with the intermediate public advisory that came out at 8 p.m. Eastern time, you know, valid at that time, then no changes to the watches and warnings, and we'll get a new full advisory at 11 p.m. Eastern time. No changes to the tropical storm watch, and I think a good portion of this will change to a warning maybe as soon as this evening, because I think we are essentially expecting somebody in that zone to get tropical storm force winds sustained, which means somebody could get gusts to say 50 miles an hour, maybe a place like Charleston, maybe a Myrtle Beach.
And that's been the expectation. The issues have always been the rain, maybe some gusty winds winds, but also what's going to be happening in the water. Now, somebody at home might go, well, Dr. Knapp, if this organized sooner than we expected, could it get more organized now that it is? We still expect this to stay capped at low-end tropical depression.
Because it is still fighting against a good bit of wind shear in the atmosphere. So I think that's going to keep the intensity in check. That's not going to keep us from getting a few to several inches of rain locally. Now, here is that trough that brought the front down into this zone, and the front's washed out, but the trough is digging down. So look at the winds blowing from southwest to northeast across the depression, and that is going to keep the intensity in check. Now, I think that wind shear might weaken a little bit, but I think there's still going to be a lot of shear and some sinking motion in the atmosphere that keeps the thunderstorms from staying too organized.
So we've got scattered thunderstorms. There'll be some dry time at times. Could be some gusty winds. You've always been concerned and remain concerned about what's going to be going on in the water, given that this is a huge beach holiday.
Absolutely. You know, we've got the risk of flooding. We got the storms in Florida today, but tomorrow again flowing into the depression, but now the depression starts to eke a little farther to the north, and that brings Charleston and Myrtle Beach into the water problems from the sky and increasing rip current risk, especially on the South Carolina beaches tomorrow. Even before the weather gets bad, the ocean gets even more dangerous with that onshore flow tomorrow.
Yeah, and I know people get tempted to go to the beach, get in the water, because you're like, well, I've paid for the beach house this weekend. I want to at least enjoy the beach. But critical you swim at those guarded beaches because of that high danger of rip currents.
Yeah, and it's not just the depression, it's the high pressure that comes in behind this front, tightening the pressure gradient. So the onshore flow will really be increasing tomorrow and tomorrow night. And this is just one model's picture of what could happen. But if it's a global model and it's suggesting we could gust 35, 40, maybe 50 miles an hour in Charleston tomorrow, that's at least possible. And then if the center goes right over you, maybe the winds die down. But that's just tomorrow and tomorrow night. Then Sunday, after the system comes ashore, we've got the water problems moving farther inland and farther up the coast.
All right, so we're going to be monitoring this. We're with you all weekend here on the Weather Channel. But, you know, unfortunately, the timing isn't great, but this is a manageable storm.
Yep, if we make smart decisions on the roads and at the beaches, we should be fine.
With a former director of the National Hurricane Center, our hurricane expert, Dr. Rick Knapp.
Yeah, dangers at the beaches and on the roads in South and North Carolina for the rest of the holiday weekend. Today is not so bad, but tomorrow the conditions will get more and more dangerous. Not so much from wind, although there will be some of that, but mainly from water. So
as advertised, it's a rain but also beach hazard event that we're going to be watching. We'll break that down in just a moment. Starting, though, in Texas, where catastrophic. There are a lot of people from, communities that don't have beaches that are going to be here. So again, if you're not necessarily familiar with swimming in the ocean, make sure you're near a lifeguard. Ask the lifeguard. They're there to identify the rip currents, dangerous spots, and they'll be happy to help you. And in every case, we always say, when you're uncertain, if you're like, I don't really feel great about my swimming, just safety is always best. Stay to like knee deep or waist deep water so you don't get yourself into trouble. A lot of the heaviest rain focused into parts of central and west Florida right now. So that's going to be edging closer and closer to Tampa. Gosh, it feels like everything's just converging on you guys around the Tampa area here as we make our way closer to, the 8:30, 9 o'clock hour. Prime firework time, unfortunately, this evening. Plenty of lightning. So there's no severe warnings, but with all that thunder, that's telling you I need to be inside, off the beaches with these storms rolling through. Very, very heavy rain and dangerous and frequent lightning coming out of all the storms. Radar has been pretty, good on where this rain and thunderstorm activity has been. Now, it does show a lot of that action fizzling, so we'll see. I think it does weaken. I don't know that it totally just poof disappears, but I think we'll be dealing with some weakening thunderstorms closer to and south of Tampa. Tomorrow afternoon, very similar forecast to today. Scattered afternoon showers and thunderstorms, very Florida-like, to be expected here in the early part of the month of July. Those afternoon showers and thunderstorms given the heat and humidity of the day. Sunday, we're going to do the same thing again. So watching Tampa for showers and thunderstorms both weekend days. That could lead to some low-end flash flood issues across most of Florida into the start of the weekend. Even this evening, we've got showers and thunderstorms working towards Tampa. So Florida continues to be action-packed in spots with the wet weather. I know the timing is not ideal here on the north side of Tampa and to the west of Orlando. Plenty of lightning out of these storms, breaking up a little bit. And a future radar does indicate that we may get clipped here around the Tampa area. But still, Tampa to Clearwater, I'd expect thunderstorms here within the next half hour. Very heavy downpours likely, and lightning is likely. Now, right on the west side of Tampa, we've got a ton of lightning on the north side of St. Petersburg. So evening plans, I know like any pre-fireworks concerts that may be going on, those are probably delayed. And you're probably just inside watching us for a few minutes while you wait to go back outside to the pool, given the thunderstorms around. Again, future radar doesn't show much, but I still think even what it's showing now compared to what we're actually seeing on the radar, we've got some beefier thunderstorms out there right now. So I do think, Tampa, you've got some shower and thunderstorm chances here for the next hour. I think they'll be scattered and they could weaken as they move in, but still there. I think Saturday and Sunday, very similar forecast to today. Scattered showers and thunderstorms with heavy downpours, frequent lightning. Yeah, you could get a severe warning for gusty winds, but I think a lot of these are going to be our typical Florida summertime thunderstorms. Localized flash flooding tomorrow into early Sunday across Florida, also our southeast states. So as Dr. Nab said, we begin to shift the really heavier rain chances up into the Carolinas. This is Sunday into Monday. So now it's Charleston, it's Myrtle Beach, it's the Outer Banks, even interior parts, though, along the 95 corridor, Florence up to Fayetteville, I-40 also watching for the possibility of some localized flash flooding. Tonight, quiet in these areas, but tomorrow, especially during the afternoon and again on Sunday, increased rain chances, gusty winds, and remember, problems in the water, big waves, dangerous rip currents.
Rain-induced flood problems on the roads.
And we're going to break it all down for you tonight on Weather Unfiltered. I'm Alex Wilson here with the former director of the National Hurricane Center, Dr. Rick Nab. Of course, we're going to talk all things Tropical Depression 3, but a really sad story today in the state of Texas.
Yeah, a lot of way too much tropical moisture caused the catastrophic flooding in Kerr County, Texas.
You know, I think beach is an ideal spot. So thanks for the fireworks show, Myrtle Beach. And if you aren't able to get to the beach, maybe we brought it to you. Now, this weekend, the beach weather that we show you may not be what you want. Myrtle Beach, there's a look at the current radar. So back towards like Florence, interior spots, we've seen a little bit more cloud cover, some rain showers, but all in all, this is pretty good for your 4th of July evening. Yeah, a little influx in clouds, but most areas have been dry, and even areas that have gotten rain are dealing with pretty light rain. The exception, Tampa, Florida. We've been watching this line of thunderstorms move closer and closer to you. North and west of Tampa, that's where we've got most of the lightning. Still, you do not want to be in the Tampa area outside. If you can hear thunder, you are close enough to deal with lightning strikes, and there are strikes still working closer to Tampa. So we're waiting on, fireworks displays here because it's just not safe to be outside at this moment. I would say within the next half hour to hour, those storms will have cleared the area and, start to not just I don't want to say deteriorate, but weaken, but also they'll start to move all over the Gulf. All right, there's your forecast over the weekend. More showers and thunderstorms likely. Let's take it a frame through now. A lot of the heaviest rain is focused off to the west of Tampa, but you could see from our Tampa cam, we've got lightning. And if you can see lightning, if you can hear the thunder, you are close enough to be struck. So inside where you need to be, over towards Clearwater, lots of lightning, lots of downpours. Winter Garden, Orlando area, we've seen at least some light to moderate rain persistent here through the evening. Now, overnight and into tomorrow, chances of rain I think will be overall lower, but very typical summer-like pattern coming our way tomorrow. Afternoon showers and thunderstorms both Saturday and again on Sunday. Not everybody gets one, but plenty of areas will see those, clouds building up as you're at the beach. And then by mid-afternoon, late afternoon, you start to see the returns on your radar. You're like, let me check. Yeah, that doesn't look great. Got to pack everything up, get back from the beach, and, put on some TV, a movie, do a puzzle, something in the beach house at that point. Get yourself cleaned up for dinner, too. Always fun to, after spend a day at the beach, go hit up one of those like buffets or just get a really good seafood dinner. Saturday into Sunday, there is the chance of localized flash flooding across parts of Florida, also into the southeast. Now, our attention really does shift to the southeastern states as we go Sunday into Monday morning with a better chance of flash flooding in some of those areas. Looking at the future radar, Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, more in the way of rain chances tomorrow and for the second half of the weekend. Let's take you to New York City with a fire.